Just so everybody knows, Doug from P3 Pro is here, and he's recording all of these. So if you've registered and we have your email, once we have these on YouTube and on our website, I will send everybody out the links. So if you're feverishly taking notes, that's fine, but no, you don't have to, because we will be sending these videos out to everybody so that you can view them at your own leisure, revisit them, that kind of thing. So we'll go ahead and get started on the next presentation. Missy is with Structura. Did I say that correctly?
You did.
Okay, Financial Partners, and she's going to be talking about financial planning for special needs.
Perfect. Thank you, Janice. Good afternoon, everybody. I am excited and grateful to get to be here with all of you today. I know time is of the essence. There's so much great information today to come at you, so we're just going to jump right in. A little bit of quick background about myself. I've been a financial advisor and planner for over 22 years, but most importantly is that I've been a special needs mom now for 17. And that's what brought me into this particular niche of special needs planning. When we received the news when my daughter was 11 months old that her brain hadn't developed properly and she had a rare neurological condition known as lissencephaly that was going to globally impact her development, it completely took the financial plan my husband and I had started on and it threw it out the door, as I'm betting most of you can relate to. But I did not know where to go. I didn't know what I needed to do. I knew there was going to be a new world of government benefits I was going to need to learn about, but I had no idea where to start. And there weren't a lot of resources out to help guide me. And so I put my plan on the shelf for a while, truthfully over 2 years, because I just did not know what to do. I was also working through, as I'm sure you can relate to, a lot of the emotions and grieving of what this new trajectory was going to look like for our family. And once I was ready to pick that plan up, I learned that there's actually a designation in special needs financial planning, an accredited advanced field of study that exists for financial advisors out there. And that's where I began my journey, was to learn more for my own family. But as I started to learn more for my own family, I very quickly realized my new passion and purpose was going to be to help families like mine sleep better at night. I always say there is no price tag on good sleep. None of us get enough of it. And if I can help families sleep a little better by alleviating one worry or concern that they have for their loved one's future, I am grateful to get to do that for families. Michaela, as I mentioned, is now 17 years old. She is a nonverbal, non-ambulatory, partial G-tube, medically complex kiddo. All diagnoses that don't tell you how incredibly amazing and phenomenal this young lady is. She lights up a room with her dimples. She has taught people to speak without words. She is the biggest sports fan you'd ever want to see in any kind of live entertainment. And she is my Disney girl at heart. She is happy to just be together with people. And she's my why in everything that I do. And she has a little sister, Avery, who is my firecracker, as I like to say. In true firecracker status, she was born on the 4th of July. So, lives it every day. But I also like to say I have the bookend IEPs. Avery was diagnosed in 3rd grade with very severe ADHD. And then I've got Michaela with, the book over here. And so I always say I'm the bookend in the IEP spectrum. I've got the 2-person meeting in 7-page document, and then I have the 12-person meeting when it's a 40-page document. That's the world in which I live. My practice now has become national in nature, just so I can educate other advisors. I have the good fortune and opportunity to travel around trying to teach other advisors about the unique complexities that make up special needs financial planning. So my personal mission is to make sure that I educate those around me to both the opportunity, but some of the pitfalls if you don't know how to do this work, and to guide us caregivers through these very emotional conversations. So why do we do it? What's the issue at heart? We already kind of touched on it. At the end of the day, we know our loved ones, when they are over 18, cannot have more than $2,000 affiliated with their name if we want to maintain government benefit qualification. So how do we plan for a lifetime of support, an amazing life, when we are handcuffed by this $2,000 asset limit? And that's what we're going to talk a lot about today. One of the things I do spend some time educating families on and wanting to help them build is their team. We all know it takes a team. We can't do this alone, and no one person can be an expert in all things. So I want to help families build the right team. And really the team is made up of 3 people when we're talking about planning for the future. It's going to be made up of the financial professional. It's going to be made up of your estate planning attorney, especially one like Dara who is well versed in the special needs estate planning realm. And then the government benefits specialist. Each one of these has a long list of responsibilities that's in their wheelhouse, but it is important that one person kind of quarterback it or know how these pieces come together from point A to point Z. And oftentimes that's the financial professional. And it's oftentimes the financial professional most often because you have contact with them more regularly. You're usually meeting with your financial advisor 1 to 2 times a year, updating your plan, looking at how the market's doing, looking at how laws have changed, looking at how your child has changed and their needs and your vision for their future has changed. And so usually that person will often take the lead just because of frequency in which they see you and spend time with you. And then, of course, there's other wonderful team members. I call the folks on the bottom, the boots on the ground people. Those are the people we can't live without on a daily basis. I would add our nanny to the list. Like, my life doesn't function without that woman. She is my angel. She's my sanity most days, truth be told. But those are also the people that we all know when they change is very painful and cumbersome. We don't ever like to lose good teachers or doctors or therapists. When we're developing the special needs plan, we have to take into account, obviously, a few factors. One, where we live. New York is very different than Wisconsin, which is very different than Texas or California, right? That's a huge component of what it's going to take for our plan. Then we need to look at what is the care that our child requires and that we provide as caregivers. Who are the replacement caregivers? What would that look like? Is that more family? Is it paid support? Is it different facilities that would help facilitate that care? What would that look like? And once we've got clarity on those pieces, we can start to estimate what the future costs of care can be. The reason we need the future costs of care is so that we can start to determine how much do we need to leave behind to supplementally support our loved one. How much do we need to put into a special needs trust to create that lifestyle that we want to continue when we're gone for our loved one? The special needs trust, we obviously aren't going to talk much about. That's Dara's world, but that is the big receptacle, as she said, for all of the assets. That is where all the things go that are going to create this beautiful vision that we have for our loved one for when we're gone and the lifestyle we want for them to maintain. What we're going to focus on, I'm going to skip ahead, is how do ABLE accounts fit into those? How does it work with the trusts? I get the question all the time from clients, should I have a trust or should I have an ABLE account? And I would tell you it's not an or, it's an and. They are different, they work different, but they work amazing together. So ABLE accounts came out 11 years ago, and they came out because of this $2,000 asset limit. They were developed because we realized that $2,000 doesn't really spread very far, right? So we need a place for our loved ones to be able to accrue above that in order to buy larger things, to support themselves at a larger scale, whether it's vacations, whether it's vehicles, whether it's technology, whether it's just a place to put Social Security benefits when they come in if we don't need them fully for our expenses today. What are we going to do with them? And that's where the ABLE accounts were born. Originally, ABLE accounts were set up that you could not have one unless your disability occurred prior to the age of 26. As of this year, that law changed, and now you can set up an ABLE account as long as your disability occurred before the age of 46. The main reason for that legislation change was so that these accounts could be utilized by our servicemen and women coming back from war with disabilities. We can put $20,000 a year into ABLE accounts. It changes every year. This year, $20,000, but that's from all sources. So it's not grandma can put in 20 and mom and dad can put in 20. It's mom, dad, grandma combined cannot exceed $20,000 in a given year put into the ABLE account. If the individual whose ABLE account it is able to work, they can put in another $15,650 above the 20 from their earnings. It's called the Able to Work contribution that they're allowed to put in. So total, $35,650 is the max in a given year that can get put in. The ABLE account needs to stay under $100,000 in total value in order to not disqualify Social Security and Medicaid benefits. Now, ABLE accounts can hold more than 100,000, and there are circumstances in which you would have it exceed 100,000. But if we are doing it for the purpose of maintaining Social Security and Medicaid benefit qualifications, we need that to stay under 100,000 in order to maintain that qualification. We fund it with post-tax dollars. You can choose investments in an ABLE account, and it grows tax-free and it comes out tax-free as long as it's for the benefit of the individual with the disability. I have a list we'll show you in a minute of what that can all be used for. It's almost anything. You also, if you have college accounts, primarily in Wisconsin, we're most familiar with EdVest around here, perhaps Tomorrow Scholar. You can take an EdVest account and roll it into an ABLE account. So if you have young children and you're not sure what that trajectory is going to look like or what that future support need is going to be, you can just set up a regular Education 529 EdVest account for the time being. And then down the road, as they write their story, if you decide it isn't going to be necessary for future education, you can roll the EdVest over into the ABLE account. And then once it's in the ABLE account, you can spend it on almost anything to benefit that individual with the disability. Now, often states do have state tax deductions for contributions to ABLE accounts, as well as we know here in Wisconsin, EdVest has a state tax deduction. ABLE accounts are run by the states. There is one that is run by a mutual fund provider, but as a generality, 99% of them are run by the states. Because of that, they're very low cost and they're very efficiently run. Here in Wisconsin, I'm going to skip ahead and come back, we don't have one yet, as many of you know. We are approved for one, but we do not have one. This is a map of the United States, obviously. The gray states don't have one, the green states do. There's us. Here's the thing, Wisconsin is great. I will tell you all firsthand, you will not find me ever moving outside of the state of Wisconsin when it comes to benefits for a loved one with disabilities. I'm just going to put that out there. There are few states that are as generous as the state of Wisconsin on the disability benefit side of things. When it comes to ABLE accounts, I know many of us feel like, why are we behind the 8 ball? Why is Wisconsin so far back? Here's the deal, folks. It doesn't matter. You can set one up in another state and Wisconsin is still going to give you a state tax deduction for contributions to ABLE accounts. That's how kind they are. Would it be nice if we had one? Sure. But are we penalized for not having one? No. We can use any of the other states' plans that allow for an out-of-state resident to participate. There's some states that don't. Off the top of my head, I can tell you Florida, Texas, and Tennessee, they don't like outsiders, so don't go to them. But most of the other states will let you use their plan, and you can still deduct your contributions on your Wisconsin state income taxes. When Wisconsin gets a plan, which we're hopeful that maybe by the end of this year we'll have one, you can roll a different state's plan into Wisconsin's plan and move it over here. No big deal. This particular website is my go-to website. If you're not familiar with ABLE accounts and you'd really like to learn a lot more, ablenrc.org is a nonprofit organization that has partnered with the federal government in the development of ABLE accounts. They've got great webinars, they have great PowerPoints, they have great resources for you to learn more about ABLE accounts. Additionally, this particular map that's on their website, if you click on your state, it'll take you, or whatever state you want to click on, it'll take you to that state's plan so you can learn all about their state account and have a link directly to the state so that you can set it up. People often ask me as a financial advisor, who did you do, Missy? So I just put it out there. I did Ohio, if anybody wants to know. And why did I do Ohio? Ohio was the very first ABLE account. So they've been in the game the longest. They have the most amount of assets under management. So I just kind of figured they figured their stuff out faster than the others. So why not just go to the beginning? Ohio actually is one of a couple states that Ohio does it so well that there's actually 18 other states that just pay Ohio to administer their plan. It looks like the state has their own plan, but actually it's Ohio in the background running it. So here's the list of all the things we can use an ABLE account for. I often say it's easier to give you the list of what you can't use the ABLE account for. So what you can't use an ABLE account for is alcohol, drugs, or adult entertainment. That's the no-nos. Hard, right? So pretty much anything else can be used for the ABLE account. Anything, and here's the key line, it's that very bottom line on the far right. Independence or quality of life. That's a nice, beautifully broad statement. We like broad in this regard because if it improves the quality of life, and you can say it improves the quality of life, you could use the ABLE account for it. I didn't quite trust it, so I called one of my resources at the ABLE Resource Center, and I wanted to run one past him. My daughter, Michaela, has a service dog for seizure detection, and her dog's about to retire here in 2 months, and it's time to get her a new dog. And so we need to put in the funds to go get a new dog. So I'm like, hey, can I use the ABLE funds for a dog? They're like, well, is the dog for Michaela? Yep. Yes, you can. I'm like, oh, perfect. I'll use the ABLE funds. And the guy then said, and by the way, if it's her dog that's for her quality of life, you can use the ABLE account for the food for the dog, the vet bills for the dog, the grooming for the dog needs new leashes. Anything that dog needs, you can pay for out of the ABLE account because it improves her quality of life. Which for me wasn't even an aha moment, a change in my shift of how I viewed utilizing this vehicle. Now, they're not perfect. Nothing is perfect, okay? So here's the big drawback of ABLE accounts. They have currently a Medicaid payback provision to them, meaning whoever's account it is, when they pass away, after funeral and burial expenses are paid, any balance in that ABLE account is returnable to Medicaid for services and benefits paid. Here's how I personally feel about that. A couple of statistics. Told you these accounts are 11 years old. This has only happened barely over a dozen times across the country. So it's not a frequent thing that states are doing. The average size of an ABLE account is $6,000. So for the states, knowing that, it's not a great use of time and energy and resources on their part to go seek reimbursement from an account that's probably only got $6,000 or less in it by the time funeral and burial expenses are paid. And so because of that, most states haven't. Some states are striking the law of the Medicaid recovery. For us in Wisconsin, what you need to know is if we open an account in another state, it's not what their state says, it's what our state says. So if you open up, let me think who does it currently. I think Indiana does it. If you open up in Indiana struck the Medicaid recovery. That's great, but you don't live in Indiana. You live in Wisconsin. Wisconsin hasn't stricken it, and therefore, according to state law, it is still recapturable. So you need to know it's based on the state you live, not the state you open the account in, okay? My personal feeling is I don't mind giving a little bit back to Medicaid. Medicaid's been very generous to my daughter over her 17 years and has protected us financially immensely with the benefits they've paid. So I don't mind giving a little bit back if it helps other participants in Medicaid. Here's the catch. Everyone's definition of a little bit is different, right? So you need to be comfortable with whatever your definition of a little bit is and what that might look like. But again, it's after funeral and burial expenses are paid. So I also plan on having an amazing celebration of life at Disney World for my daughter that is going to be fantastic. That's where I'm going to go. All right. Some of the pros of the ABLE account is it also can give some financial independence to the individual with the disability. Most of these ABLE accounts, I think almost all of them now, come with a debit card. This debit card is loadable. So let's say you have $10,000 in the ABLE account, but you could put just $50 at a time on this debit card. And so it's a great way to give some financial independence to an individual that's starting to navigate some of those pieces of their adult life, but still have some guardrails. Now, it doesn't completely protect them. If someone at the store wants to talk them into buying them a soda too, you can't help it, they did it, right? But at least there's some guardrails to it. It also makes ease of access of dollars a lot easier. When you talk about caregivers potentially taking your loved one or your child out to do exciting, fun things in the community, and you can say, here, there's money on this, use it. It also, because it's a debit card, gets tracked through their website in terms of expenses. And so in terms of validating the use of the dollars, the only time you have to prove what they were used for is if you ever get audited by the IRS. Let's hope nobody ever has to go through that. I hear it's a very painful process. I'm going to knock on some wood. But if you do, you go to that printout of all the things you use that debit card for, and now here's your list of what you've used those dollars for. The other pro is that you can manage the funds in chunks. So you might have a chunk invested for growth. You might have a chunk in that account just sitting in cash, and then you might have some on the debit card. So it gives a lot of flexibility of use and ease of use, because it's a debit card just like our charge cards. You can use it anywhere. They grow tax-free, come out tax-free. That's huge when we talk about preserving dollars. If we don't have to give any pennies to Uncle Sam for taxes, that's more pennies our loved one gets to use. And they're very easy to open. You could have opened one by now in the time I've been talking. They're that easy to do online. So if you want to check this off your list tonight, you can go home and do it, and I promise it probably won't even interrupt your Sunday night TV watching very much. Some of the cons is that age 46 disability limit. So this isn't an account that is going to help individuals or adults with maybe early onset dementia or Alzheimer's or debilitating diseases. It also is going to have this $20,000 a year limit, which is why we cannot use it for inheritances. So people will often say, why can't I just leave my assets to the ABLE account? Well, because you can't put more than $20,000 in a year, and most people are trying to leave more than $20,000 behind if they can. If it's less, sure, but you can't name the ABLE account as a beneficiary. So it's going to have to pass through to the child and then into the ABLE account, which can cause some difficulty in terms of some hiccups of benefit qualifications. And then there's that Medicaid payback clause. I'm going to skip the pros and cons of the special needs trust, but I'm going to go to this nice side-by-side comparison for you. ABLE accounts don't really cost anything to set up. You can do it very quickly, as I mentioned. Tax-free distributions. I have some numbers I have to update I just saw on here. Third-party trusts, as Dara said, you do have to work with an attorney. They're a little bit more expensive, but they hold a lot more. They hold a larger size of assets to be able to last a lifetime now of your loved one. And so I often describe these two vehicles as this. The special needs trust, think of that like your 401k in retirement. That's the big account holding all the money that's going to get you through retirement. And the ABLE account is more like your checking account. It's what you're using on a daily basis. You probably should, in retirement, keep $10,000 to $30,000 in liquid money anyway in retirement. So that's kind of what the ABLE account is. It's that operating account, ease of use. And a lot of times now, special needs trusts are making distributions to ABLE accounts to continue that ease of access of funds that can be used on a daily basis for purchases, whether that's vacations, vehicles, just going to the movies, everything in between. This is one other piece I wanted to touch on today. I don't know how many of you have heard of a letter of intent. It is not a legal document, but I highly encourage families to keep it with their legal documents. It's one of my favorite pieces. It's also, no lie, as a parent, the most daunting one to sit down and do. I'm just going to be honest. This is the handbook, if you will, of how to step into caregivers' shoes if you had to. It is the brain dump of all the things we as caregivers know that oftentimes two spouses don't even know. Like, I love my husband, he's super hands-on, but if you ask him who delivers, her G-tube supplies, he is not going to know the answer to this question. He'll be able to figure out probably who to call and make a few calls, but he is not going to know which company is delivering it, right? And so this particular document walks you through all of those pieces and so much more. It encompasses all the things that we naturally do think of, like medications and doctors and teachers and therapists and family members, but then it goes a little bit deeper. And it asks you about traditions, holiday traditions, ethnic traditions, things that you want to make sure are maintained in your child's life if you're not here. It walks through what is the weekly routine. What does your child do Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday that if disrupted could be difficult for your child? What parts of the daily living activities can your child do? What parts does your child need assistance with? What are their sleeping habits? What are their nutrition habits? What are their favorite social activities and hobbies and sports? What's their favorite TV show? All the things that we know, but if we sat with a blank notebook and tried to think what we need to write down, me personally, I'd probably stare at it for a really long time. And so this walks you through in a nice navigated way, a place to put all of that information. I have used this information now that I've done it in a couple of additional ways. Anytime we bring a new care provider on our team, a respite provider, something of that nature, I share this with them and I leave it behind and print it on the counter until I know they know all the things about my child. The other time I use it is when we are now working on, this is fun, some of you can relate to this, we are about to transition doctors. Not something I've been looking forward to, but that happens at 18, right? And so before we see any new doctors, this is going to be going over to them so they can get to know my child before I even show up, and our family, and what's important to us in the journey we've taken so far, just to help set the stage and speed up that process. I have this in electronic format. I have a few printed at my table too, if you'd like them. If you'd like electronic, just please shoot me an email after, and I'm happy to share it with you electronically. I prefer electronic because then once you do the painful process of getting it down, once a year, you can just go in and update the little pieces that have changed over the course of the year, and then email it out to all the people that should have it. I email it to all my siblings and all the grandparents. Usually the siblings, because the grandparents are going to forget what they did with it and go ask the siblings. But then everyone's covered, right? So it goes out to everyone and everyone's got a copy. I also share it with the school district for her IEP, so they've got everything in one place. Few final considerations when we talk about financial planning is one, it's really critical, I believe, to include your whole family in the conversation, especially as your individual or your loved one with a disability becomes a young adult and their siblings might also be adults. It's important to have that conversation all together at the table so everybody knows the page everyone else is on and knows who are the key people to call if and when different pieces are needed. It's also really important to make sure that your plan is a part of your child's, or more importantly, your child's is a part of yours. I always describe special needs financial planning that it is a plan within a plan. Most families, their kids get to 18 and they go get their own plan. Well, that's not always the case for all families, certainly not mine. And so my daughter's plan is always going to be at the heart and inside my plan. And I need to make sure that my plan not only meets my needs, my goals, my objectives, but when I'm not here, it flows into her plan in the most effective and efficient way possible and minimizes tax. Because again, penny saved, it's a penny that goes to the daughter or loved one. And then build your team. It doesn't happen overnight, but the team should really have a fantastic estate planning attorney, government benefit specialist, and a financial professional that you enjoy spending time with. Few things to take into consideration that people have shared with me over the years as they've navigated looking for a financial professional that have been important to them or that are key things that they look as differentiators. I personally just say it should be a fun factor in addition to this list. This is someone you're going to need to talk to 1 or 2 times a year, hopefully for many, many years. So if you don't enjoy those conversations with that person, it's going to make it a lot less fun. It also makes it really hard to be transparent and vulnerable and honest about very difficult and emotional topics. And so you want to make sure that whoever you choose to work with, it's someone that you trust implicitly and you enjoy spending time with. This is my team. I'm very blessed to be a part of a team of 22 different folks with all different specialties and skill sets. And our focus is really doing holistic financial planning. So looking at the entire family, the entire financial picture, from how do we get to our retirement goals to how do we provide generational wealth and legacy for that funding of our loved one's life once we're gone. I am more than happy to do free consultations for 30 minutes and answer any personal questions. So if you'd like, you can feel free to save my contact information virtually if you would prefer, or here's a link to my schedule directly. And you can grab 30 minutes, or we've got a couple minutes for some questions, but wanted to give folks an option if they wanted more privacy in any of their questions.